Hello. Today I wanted to give a bit of testimony, not for pity or anything like that, so hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. Today's video is more of a to whom it may concern type of thing, or bottle in the ocean, so to speak. This video is a continued version from my previous testimony video back in July of 2022, if you want to go check that out. Seeing as it's July now and a year has passed, I'd like to provide an update as to how my life has been going, my pitfalls as well as my better points this past year. So since my last video, I continued to work hard on the job as well as have a career. During this, I was starting to care more about my health again, starting to eat well and resumed regular exercise. I kept working for a good stint until I randomly decided to move in with my criminal sister, who I didn't know was a criminal at the time. Living there was hell, to say the least, receiving heavy threats and abuse to having my stuff stolen from me. It was hell living there. I had also moved in with my two cats with me to my sister's. After I had moved out rather fast, I ended up losing my two cats after they had slipped out the window. I found out later that they died. Damn shame. Um, this experience caused me to become extremely depressed. Losing my cats was rough on my mental health. I kept at the job for a couple more months before I eventually quit, as I couldn't be bothered with the harassment I was receiving in my depressed state. I just walked off the job. I just said fuck it one day, and I just walked off, and that was about it. It was a siding, gutters, and soffit and fascia job. I enjoyed the job, but I needed to take some time to recover, as I was of no use to anyone in my state at the time. I ended up buying a guitar with my last paycheck, hoping to venture into creating music. So I ended up starting to play guitar. I bought books to help me learn and began practicing day by day. It was a total struggle at first, but I eventually began to get the hang of it. I ended up buying a Focusrite USB audio for recording music on what are called DAWs, basically software to create music, right? And I began recording my guitar, and my first tracks were terrible. God, they were bad, but if I wasn't playing guitar or video games, I was laying on the couch in a depressive state, so I tried to keep myself busy at that time. At the same time I was starting the learning process of playing guitar, I began to receive heavy DW attacks, such as random unexplained nerve pain to torturous brain burning sensation to random loss of coordination, heart palpitations, and all kinds of attacks on my health. I would fall asleep and wake up with unexplained scratches. That this was a really tough time for me, and at the time it felt hopeless. My parents ended up buying me two more cats, a male kitten and a female kitten. This goes on for a few months. I kept getting better at guitar as I was practicing almost daily. Me and my dad were getting sick of the place we were staying at, so we decided to start applying for different rentals. We had no luck all winter. During this winter, my criminal sister kept moving in and out of the house. Living with her was rather terrible, as she was a drug addict and rather abusive as well, and a perp. We had to kick her out. Then she decided to use her criminal ties to threaten my safety, so she became violent, so to speak, rather nasty, in a way. At this time, all through winter, I was receiving heavy DW attacks. The constant peril caused by this was taking its toll on my physical and mental health. I was starting to become rather sick with high blood pressure and poor cardiovascular capabilities, to getting sick a lot and never having any energy. This kept all winter. When spring hit, we ended up finding a new rental. So we ended up moving out of the trailer court we had resided in, and we moved to a new area on the outskirts of town. From the second we got there, I had a gut feeling it would be hell, which was later proven to be true. I was also very sick at this current time and suffering from daily poor sleep for months, which I would only get small amounts of sleep due to rebound insomnia from sleeping medications I had been prescribed, as well as herbs and skullcap herb and valerian root herb. Drinking loads of coffee for energy when we had barely any food for months as well. Life was rather bleak, but I had my happy moments at the time as well. At this time of moving into the new rental, my suspicions were confirmed, as my targeting had seen a sharp increase as well. I found myself sick all the time for weeks, finally getting better, only to fall asleep and wake up sick again. I decided I wanted to get my cardiovascular health in shape. So I bought a boxing bag and hung it in the garage. I began training martial arts mainly for the cardio aspect, but I didn't feel like going for jogs, as the heavy targeting in a weird neighborhood full of stalkers was rather bothering me. I ended up getting rather decent as I bought books about martial arts. Um, it was at this point my targeting began to take a new angle. My stalkers started to become aggressive with me and rather nasty. I would get tough guys covertly trying to pick fights with me, to veiled threats constantly being sent my way. At this time, the upstairs neighbors had moved in, and they were the most insufferable neighbors I've ever experienced, stomping around me in the house to doing directed conversation constantly. Needless to say, living there was driving me insane, so while this was going on, my sister ended up stealing the security cameras from my NVR that I left behind at the old house, as she had moved into our old place, in our place. She decided to send some douchebag my way to get the NVR from me. It quickly turns nasty and violent as we have a back and forth over Facebook, and he states he knows where I live, so I was left at the time to worry that my residence would be robbed. Through all this, I kept training and starting to see results with my health as well as my martial arts. Was also starting to get better at guitar after reaching 8 months of experience. Life was rough, but I still had good times as well. We had eventually ended up moving out of the basement suite rental. I had moved in with other family, and my dad and sister had taken over the rental I had found for them, where I'm staying now. Living with the other side of the family was utter nonsense to deal with. They would have their kids harass me constantly, as well as conducting directed conversation on me as well. I was crammed in a small room with my cats that weren't allowed to leave the room, with hardly anything to sleep on. I ended up hanging a boxing bag in that tiny room and trained a bit there, but not much. It was at this time things had started to really take its toll on me. Eventually, I had moved in with my dad and sister because of how miserable life was at the other family member's residence, at my other family's residence. I reside here today. I still have every walk of life, people harassing me from drug addicts to working class. I am in a decent house, but in a bad area. I still worry my house may be robbed, as people had already tried to break in. We ended up kicking out my sister due to her criminal lifestyle. One night, me and my dad walked into town, where we got into a scuffle with a man who was becoming violent with us. That's when the police decided to pursue a warrant from years ago that I had never been told of until now. So now I'm facing a rather black and white criminal case against me, where I'm painted rather badly. I have my worries that it may end up sending me to jail. However, I try not to let it get me down too much. I'm getting rather fit these days, exercising at least 5 days a week and eating a primarily meat diet. I also take supplements to aid my body and brain. I'm also getting good sleep these days, and after cutting caffeine completely out of my diet, I feel well and hope for the best. I'm also getting good sleep these days after cutting caffeine completely out of my diet. I feel well and hope for the best, but I have my worries. In the residence I'm staying at, I have plenty of daily harassment, such as the loud noise campaign with sirens, loud engines, and so on. The neighbors are always conducting skits and directed conversation. I find myself at a point where I just began to laugh and ignore them. From the people swarming me on the street to any perp, really. I just don't care for them like I used to. That's my year in summary. Not much really went on other than a heap of bullshit. I got ran through the shitter, but I keep pushing on and do not let my targeting define me. I used every bit of optimism and courage to keep moving forward, so I got my old job back, and I'm working that right now. it's looking rather good for me right now, besides the daunting court case, right? I appreciate everyone who listened and to the end, as you gave me the chance to spread my story in hopes you can learn from my mistakes as well as my good points. Thank you for watching.